Welcome to episode 166 on the Happiness Happens podcast. Today, we're talking all about finding resilience when our life path forcibly changes, and I'm so honored to have Cody Byrns with us today sharing his incredible story. Have you ever experienced a life-changing moment? Of course you have. We all have. It's that moment where we knew that life as we knew it would be forever impacted. I know there are a couple of moments like this that come to mind for you too. This week, Cody Byrns shares his powerful story of surviving a life-altering car accident. Cody Byrns is an award-winning speaker and a #1 best-selling author. His life underwent a major shift in 2013 after a horrific traffic accident left his body burned and scarred. After years of countless surgeries and innumerable physical and emotional hurdles, Cody has since founded his own nonprofit Burn Foundation and is on a mission to spread his story of inspiration, hope, and recovery to everyone he meets. Cody has been featured on many TV and radio shows around the world, and his message has encouraged thousands. I know that you will feel encouraged and inspired after this episode. Be prepared to have an experience that will motivate you to move out of bondage and into a life of freedom. We speak about what happiness means to Cody from both perspectives. Being open to new possibilities in life, even when you already think you have your plan set in place. The accident that changed his entire life and living through the aftermath of that. Coming to terms with the car accident he was in and how his life plan changed afterwards. And his biggest, most inspiring lessons on how to get back up after life knocks us down. Let's get into this conversation with Cody. I know you're going to love it as much as I did. Cody, welcome to the podcast. I'm super excited to have you on here today with all of us.
Well, thank you for having me. I am so honored and happy to be here.
Oh, it's going to be such a great conversation. I cannot wait to dive in to a little bit about you, a little bit further about you and your story. But before we do that, I actually want to know what happiness means to you.
Yeah, and I think that's a great question. And for me, I think it's living every day to the fullest and sharing your day with those that you love, some way, somehow being a beam of hope to them.
That is so beautiful. And I was actually thinking about this yesterday. Always so divinely timed, in my opinion. But it's funny that you say that because I've been thinking a lot lately about how does it all, like all of those little moments and, those moments where maybe we doubt ourselves, those moments where maybe we aren't really sure about our next step or anything like that. And get into that spiral, right? That spiral of doubt. But when you can bring yourself back into the little present moments, those are the moments that actually make up your whole life. So it doesn't really matter, like all of the things that you do is amazing, right? In general, all of those things that we do are amazing, but what really matters is those little.
Yeah, sometimes it's just the simple things is what we're often needing.
Now, I would love to know a little bit more about you and just your story. I've read and I've told everyone a little bit about who you are, but I want to know who you are from your point of view, how you've gotten to where you are today.
Well, okay, that's a big question. And so I'm a crazy, crazy guy. I will pre-warn everyone. And my name is Cody Byrns, and I have an interesting last name because, well, I'll just say it, I'm a burn survivor. And so I tell people all the time, I had one of those names I had to live up to. I have a morbid sense of humor, and I've learned to laugh at the situation. And so I don't mind if the viewers and listeners, if they laugh as well, it's okay. I give you full permission to laugh. Just you can't make jokes. I hate to get roasted. That's the only thing. But other than that, we'll have a good time. So my name is Cody Byrns. I'm originally from Indiana, southern Indiana. I now live in Tampa, Florida. And growing up, great family, lived in the middle of a cornfield my whole childhood, and wild imagination. And as a youngster, my family took me to go see a circus. And I'm going somewhere with this because I know that's pretty left field. They took me to a circus, and at this circus, I saw a juggler. And I was like, that is the coolest thing ever. And I seen how the audience was going crazy. And I'm thinking, okay, I want to do that. I want to do that. And so then a couple years later, by the way, after I left the circus, I started teaching myself how to juggle, taught myself. A couple years later, I would go to a children's camp at my local church was doing. And at this camp, they had a camp speaker. And the camp speaker was up on the platform juggling. And so I'm like, how cool is this? I see that he's doing the very thing that I already love doing, but I recognized that this man wasn't up on the platform to receive self-glorification. He was up there to really give us kids a message of hope. And something on the inside of me in that moment said that this is what I'm here on this earth to do. And that is bring hope to others by using the skills and the gifts that I have. And so all through my young years, I pursued that. I honed in on my juggling skills, comedy, traveled the country, working with children, doing kids camps, and up until the age of 23. At a young age, I had already spoken to thousands around the world and had done some stuff in Cuba in early 2013. Life was just going great for me. And I was pursuing that vision that I had for myself. And then in May of 2013, everything would come to a complete stop where everything in my life would suddenly change. And I think for a lot of people, a lot of the viewers and listeners that are watching today's show or listening to today's show, they may have found themselves in a circumstance where everything in their life suddenly comes to a complete stop. The plans that they have established for their life are suddenly no longer happening. Life has taken a sudden turn for the worse. Where do I go from here? And for me at 23 years old, I certainly encountered that. And what I'm going to do here, because I can keep going, so I'm going to give you some pause breaks and let you kind of chime in. And if you have any questions up to this point, feel free to ask.
I
I'm
love
open
that.
to anything.
I love that. Thanks for allowing the pause because, I'm the same way when I share some of my story. I'm like, hold on, I can continue, but like, do you want to ask any questions? Honestly, I was just so mesmerized by what you were saying because, you have this whole purpose and this whole life figured out by the age of 23, which never gets to happen for right? In that moment, I'll ask you this question. Did you ever think that there could have been a different option?
Absolutely. I think there's always a different option. I think life is a matter of just, we all have choices every single day. And for me, I think there were certainly other options I could have pursued, but I was so passionate and so determined to see this vision for myself come to pass. It was like there was no stopping me. And so I was headed down that direction. And, growing up, doing all these events and speaking, I'd also gotten my pastoral credentials. And so I was a children's minister at the same time. So along with traveling the country, I held a position at a church and, every week talking to hundreds of kids. I was doing a lot. So to me, this was my life, and that's where I always seen myself. And I mean, there are people out there that they may say, well, you could have done this or done that. But for me, I knew without a shadow of doubt, in which it is unusual for somebody so young to kind of already know what they're wanting to do in their lives, because a lot of people don't, and that's okay. But for me, I was so headstrong, if you will, that I was just, all right, I'm all in. This is going to work.
So then what? So then what happens after that? You got it all figured
Yeah.
out. You know it's going to
Yes.
work and it's all on track. And then what?
Yeah, that's the thing. You think you have life all figured out, especially being young. So at 23, you do. You think you have your whole life ahead of you, and then bam, life just hits you. So it was May 31st, 2013. It was a Friday afternoon. I had a meeting at a university. I was actually going to be doing a speaking comedy juggling engagement the following weekend. And it was in Vincent's, Indiana, which is about a 30-minute drive from where I worked. So I had a meeting with the directors of the university that morning. Everything went great. I was driving back to my church office, and I was stopped at a red light on the highway. It was Highway 41 in Princeton, Indiana. And I had taken this highway many times before. And in all honesty, it was even a few miles up from my house. And so right at my back door. What I am told is that whenever I was stopped at this red light, I was rear-ended by a refrigerator box truck that was going full highway speed. Now, I don't remember none of this, thank God, And this is the truth. The only thing I remember was driving and everything goes black. And it's almost like I didn't exist. I don't know how to describe it. So everything I tell people, it's because of the police report, witnesses, first responders. I get that information and I delay it to others. But it was very shocking to me to hear all that what had went down. So I'm rear-ended by a refrigerator box truck. My car blows up into flames. I actually had a van in front of me. The van in front of me went to one side of the intersection. Mine was pushed through into an embankment. And when the first responders came to the scene, by the looks of it, they said it's a fatality. So they had already called the coroner, and my life as I knew it was done with. And I think there is a powerful parallel there that people can relate to, because stoplights, I think we can all think of one stoplight in our life where life stops and we find ourselves in a troublesome situation, trapped in the heat of life. And what changed things for me was a little bit of movement. So the first responders, they saw my hand move on the steering wheel. And because of that, they changed their plans. And they was able to rush to try to get me out. It took them a good hour to get me out of that thing. They put me on a stretcher and life flighted me to the burn unit in Indianapolis, Indiana, where I was put into a coma on full life support for 3 weeks. And I had severe burn injuries, 3rd and 4th degree burns, broken vertebrae, torn ligaments. The papers had said I was in stable condition, but I wasn't. I was in critical condition. It was very, very severe. And news about what happened spread like wildfire, because a small town in Indiana, this was a big wreck. And for those that are interested, there is images out there online of the wreck. The sheriff's department took hundreds, and I'm grateful that they did, because for me to be able to tell you this story and see the images, it's kind of helps put the pieces together, because it's understandable why they would say it was a fatality. And so it was very difficult. So to kind of piggyback and go back to what I was saying, I remember driving, everything is black. 3 weeks later, I'm coming to out of a coma. I'll pause there.
Oh my God. Good pause. Oh my goodness. I couldn't even firstly imagine what it would have felt like. Wake up. And you kind of, I'm imagining, wake up and you have absolutely no idea what's just happened. You really don't know where you've been for the last 3 weeks as you've been in this, coma. And you probably wake up and are in so much pain. Like, do you remember what some of your first thoughts were when you woke up?
Yeah, I mean, it was just like, I feel like I've been hit by a truck. That was anyhow, never
I mean,
mind.
you were, so.
Yeah, I was sore and I was hurting, but it was very scary. And I always tell people the story of my family, and more specifically my mom. I remember her being there at my bedside, and I was wrapped up like a mummy. I had a neck and back brace on. I mean, I have burn injuries, my hands, my arms, my legs, my lower back. I mean, I was wrapped up all over. And she's there, and she told me, Cody, you're in Indianapolis. You're in the burn unit. You was life flighted here. You have severe burn injuries, and your recovery is not going to be an easy journey. But no matter what, Cody, don't lose sight of your vision. And those words stuck with me. And I think about how it's important for all of us when life knocks us down, that we have people in our lives to remind us of what is most important. And my mom certainly was for me at that time, and still is to this day. But it was a very difficult journey. So those words, they were encouraging, but still in my mind, I'm thinking, hold up, this is not part of the plan. I didn't see this coming, and naturally your faith is, you're questioning your faith. All right, God, well, why am I, now burned and scarred and, here just deformed in ways? And, this is not what I thought, you had in store for me. And so I had all these questions. So I had moments where I'm grateful to be alive, other moments where I'm frustrated at the situation. And I had some low moments too, if I'm being honest. I mean, I fought depression, and I wonder, why didn't God just take me then? You're all over the place. But I think through it all, the benefit is that I had a lot of mentors and people in my life prior to the accident that encouraged me through it. And I think our support system is crucial and getting back up after life knocks us down. So I had all kinds of thoughts. My recovery was a long journey. I was in the burn unit for 2.5 months. Then I had to go to a rehab center for another 6 weeks. I had to relearn to walk, had to relearn to use my hands, all the basics. And then I did outpatient therapy for probably 1 to 2 years after all this. And so many surgeries, a lot of hurdles. And, to this day, I have large permanent scars on my body. And so I've had to learn to live with those scars. And there's also a powerful parallel with that. A lot of my scars, they can be hidden, and depending on the clothes that I'm wearing. But there's a lot of people in today's world that have hidden scars as well, because scars aren't just physical, they are emotional. And it's those individuals that I feel now more so than ever to encourage and give hope to, that no matter what scars you are carrying from yesterday's hurt and pain, life is worth living, and there is beauty. There is beauty everywhere, and there's beauty in your scars, despite the difficulties of what you went through in getting those scars. There's beauty in it because you've learned something of value, and it is a badge of honor, and it demonstrates that whatever it was that tried to kill you didn't succeed.
Thank you for sharing that. And I have two questions for you, and they're kind of both in different directions. So I'll start with one, and then maybe we can loop back to the other one. But my first question in all of this is, you said in there, you're questioning God now. Why me? Why did you do this to me? Why am I the person who has to go right now? And I think that can be said for a lot of things that people can find themselves in, very hard situations where you question your faith, right? And you test your relationship to spirit, to God, to source, to whatever it is that you identify as being your higher power. How did you start to navigate that and understand that, things are happening for a purpose, right? Because we can, it's like when I'm going to use this example, like if someone has lost their significant other or has lost someone they love or a child, it's very easy to say, why me? How do you turn back to faith again and learn to trust again?
Great question. Great question. And I will say it really just was a matter. I'll share this. Whenever I was in the in-state rehab, I had gotten a garbage bag full of get well cards from hundreds of children at a kids camp that I had spoken. A lot of these kids knew me because I had spoken there the year prior, and they all knew of what happened to me. Like I said, news about this accident spread all over the world. My family started up a Facebook page. Thousands of people were following the story. And I had gotten these cards, said, "We're praying for you." It showed pictures of me juggling. And I thought, how heartwarming this is to read these letters, and also to see that there's these little children that are now praying for me and encouraging me. And I go back to my why. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Really examining myself. And my whole purpose from being a child, it wasn't, I'm not here just to juggle. I'm not here just to entertain people. More so than anything, is to give that message of hope. And now I have the opportunity to really live it out. I think a lot of people, when life is going great, we can talk a good talk. But then when tragedy strikes and rubber hits the road, our faith, our message, everything that we are about is put to the test. And my faith, everything was put to the test. And in that moment, I had to really ask myself, what am I going to preach to these little eyes in this moment? And I had to kind of just shift my mindset and say, you know what, I'm going to utilize this with God's help, to turn this around and use it for my benefit, for the good of helping others and furthering that message of hope all the more. It was also confirmed to me through another mentor of mine. He served in Vietnam. He's also a burn survivor, Dave Reaver. We had a phone call, and he had the same question for years. After he was in the war, he went to throw a hand grenade. A sniper shot the hand grenade, blew up all over his body. His face is scarred. He's got fingers amputated. And for years, he wondered, why would God allow this to happen? Why would a loving God let me hurt and endure suffering? And he said, someone had told him, he was doing a television interview, and the person said, Dave, God did not do this to you. God does not do evil. He is a good God. He does love you. But he allowed this to happen because he could trust you with the scars. He could trust you with the testimony, with the story. And he had told that to me, and I'm thinking, that's it. That's it. I believe I've been entrusted now with these scars to further enhance this, to further, give this message of hope to others. And it has done just that. It has allowed me to grow in ways that I wouldn't have if I hadn't gone through this. I'll be 32 this year, and I still have a lot to learn, a lot to discover. But I tell you, this allowed me to grow up in so many ways and really get to the bare bones of what truly matters in this life. And so my platform has grown. I still speak to children, but my audience more so today is young adults, teenagers, and a lot of those in colleges and corporate groups. I've spoken to those in prison. The story has taken off. It's now international. I speak to people, whether it be virtual, live events, more so virtual in today's COVID world. Written a book. And so it's been quite remarkable of how it has all shifted. And it was all a matter of me just learning to re-love myself and embrace these scars, and not just embrace them, but now celebrate them because they've made me a better person than I was yesterday.
So beautiful. What I love the most is that you take all of this struggle and transform it into something to serve and to help other people, which I think is really admirable, because I think that a lot of the time we always look for what our purpose is ourselves, but really sometimes whatever it is that we can offer, actually most of the time, really has to do with how we help in the world, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's incredible. And I also, as you're speaking, I'm curious, what was one way that you were able to make that mindset shift? Because a lot of your resilience comes from to be able to see things from a different perspective. So what would you say is crucial in terms of building that resilient mindset?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that too is something that I teach. And so doing the coaching and stuff, for those that are interested, there is a PDF, a free gift to those that are open to it, epiclifegameplan.com. And I'm about to explain these epic steps. And at this link that I just gave, they can download a PDF for free, and it kind of has all these steps listed, and it explains each of those. But there's epic steps. Epic is an acronym, and the E stands for embrace challenges. So in order for us to, get back up after life knocks us down, I think it's extremely important that we embrace our current reality. We accept it. Understand that challenges, they're always going to present themselves at one level or another. It's just part of life. So we accept the challenge. And then we have the P, which is provide perspective. How can I reframe my pain? What are the lessons I can learn through this difficulty? Pain is one of our greatest teachers. And so you look at the situation, you reframe it, take in the lessons, and then the I, which is implement those changes. Basically applying those lessons to our life, into our situation. And then we have the C, which is my favorite, and that is celebrate. We celebrate our story. We celebrate the fact that we're here, that we're alive. We have another day to live. And out of that celebration, we're serving others. And I think if you're going to overcome difficulty, you have to look outside of yourself and recognize that you're not alone. There is a world around you that is in great need of hope, and you're not the only one going through something. I think in moments of difficulty, we tend to isolate ourselves and we feel like we're the only one, but you're not. You're not the only one. And you need to count your blessings. It's a very, old saying, count your blessings, but there's so much truth to it. Count your blessings. Look at all that you have to be grateful for, and it'll take you far.
That's incredible. We're going to put that download in the show notes for everyone who wants to access it. Cody, I have loved this conversation with you so much. We're nearing our time here, but my last question that I ask all of my guests, I've been asking it for 3 years on the podcast, and I have barely ever gotten the same answer twice. Can you believe it? It's how can someone create a little more happiness in their day, every day, starting today?
Hmm. I think it is a matter of just taking one step at a time. And hmm, I'll give you another acronym: CPR. Okay, CPR. All right. So the C stands for community. Find a community. Find people that love you and care about you. Surround yourself with those individuals. And I think that in itself, it brings some happiness. And then have patience. Understand that, you know, to get to wherever you want to get in life, it's going to take time. So practice patience, as hard as it may be. And then you have the R, which is renew your mind. Renew your mind. Find good, uplifting content, positive music, positive podcast, books. Take in those things. They all have a part in your attitude and how you enjoy your day. So utilizing those three things, I think happiness will come naturally.
Beautiful. Never had someone say that one before. Thank you so much, Cody, for your time. I have enjoyed this so much.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning into the podcast this week. Thank you for joining us. I hope you love this conversation. Be sure to grab Cody's download, connect with both of us, let us know you're listening, and remember that happiness happens